I already hit the button.
It's 11:59 at Radio Free America, and this is Uncle Sam with music and the truth until dawn. Right now, I got a few words for some of our brothers and sisters in the occupied zone. The chair is against the wall. The chair is against the wall. John has a long mustache. John has a long mustache. It's 12 o'clock, Americans, another day closer to victory. And for all of you out there on or behind the lines, this is your song.
And welcome everybody to our daily gun show. We come to you live every day at 7 p.m. Eastern, or maybe a little bit later, or 4 p.m. Pacific, for about an hour and 90 minutes each day. We do 3 gun-related topics, different topics throughout the week. We run it live on YouTube. We simulcast it over at gunchannels.com, where we're watching the live comments from the people that watch the show live. When it's all over, it'll be a video up on YouTube, and every once in a while we'll take the audio from them and post them as a podcast up on iTunes. So we encourage anybody that's listening to the show now or in the future to leave us some feedback, leave us a comments to the videos, subscribe to the channels on whatever platform it is you listen to us on. Lets us know where you are, and hopefully gets more people interested in finding out about the show. So we do appreciate that favor. There are 4 hosts. 3 of us are here today. We got Bob jumping in from Canada. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, glad to be here. Hope you can hear me.
Yeah, now the volume's pretty good. Then we got Dano jumping in from Illinois. Thanks for joining.
Yep, glad to be here.
And I'm down here in Arizona, sweltering, super hot. And don't know where Smeggy is, but he might be jumping in from Michigan. So let's see, today is Monday, beginning of the week, and it's episode 341. Today we'll be talking about the show this week. We always start off by talking about what we got coming up. Then we'll talk about social media and the difference between reposting content or posting your own original content. Pretty interesting. And then we talk about the various shooting events that are coming up. We'll use mostly the calendar over at Gun Channels for that. We also do a gun shop of the day, a movie of the day, all kinds of things. And before we dig into all that, we usually take a break at the beginning of the show, see if anything happened overnight, or in this case, over the weekend, that's worth talking about.
Yeah, I didn't watch the news.
Yeah, unless I missed something, which I very well may have. I'm not seeing a whole lot. Now, was there anything new Supreme Court wise?
Yeah, thanks for filling in while I got some water there. So yeah, we have today, the 26th, was the day that the Supreme Court, I don't know the actual, we talked about it the other day on the 22nd with Eric and Sean from Florida Carry, but I think this is the last day of their, like, that they're in session, and so this is when they would have to put out the itinerary or whatever of what they're going to be dealing with when they come back into session in October. So this is sort of a do or die day to find out what's going to be on the agenda for the next time they get together. And then they also put out some verdicts for stuff that they've been debating or whatever they do. So for us, there's all kinds of stuff, I guess. But for guns, there was the Peruta case was the big one. So that came, the decision on that came out, and was not great. Hopefully Smeggy will jump in. I'm sure he's been reading more about that. I've only read the one article so far, and then just some discussion on Gun Channels earlier. But yeah, that, and then there's some other stuff from Trump and the whatever, who can be immigrate or whatever, the immigration stuff. Something about that came through.
Yeah, I think that held most of the immigration stuff for Trump. Not all of it, but most of it. But yeah, I did. Now that you're talking about it, I'm like, yeah, there were things I saw on my feed but never looked into about something with the Supreme Court and them just basically not doing a great job, I heard, on as far as the firearm stuff.
Yeah, just readings, verbatim off of bearingarms.com. Justices have rejected an appeal in the case of Peruta versus California, which would have delivered an enormous boost to Californians' right to carry firearms, specifically concealed carry in public. And it would have gone beyond just California, but that's where it was initially filed. So that is disappointing. But then again, isn't that court have a history of being very liberal leaning? That appeals court?
Is this a Supreme Court appeals court?
Or this is a federal appeals court.
Oh, it's a federal, so it's, yeah, okay, but they're appealing a California decision or a Supreme Court decision?
No, it's one step below the Supreme Court.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Let me back up here. Oh, I'm sorry. You are correct. The Supreme Court announced their rejection of a major Second Amendment. Okay, you are correct. Supreme Court.
Okay.
My bad.
Okay, I'm back. Thanks. So what are you guys talking about? The Peruta one?
Yeah, he's putting a little meat on the bone that it was indeed the Supreme Court that came out with the decision.
Well, it's coming up from the Ninth Circuit Court, and then the next level up from that is the Supreme Court. So it's in a big holding pin with a bunch of other, lower court rulings that people have been dissatisfied with and are petitioning the Supreme Court to make a ruling on. Whatever you're reading there is the one article that has like a picture of the Supreme Court as their picture.
Right.
This is a picture of the building. Like, I can't tell from that quote at the bottom. Smeggy says that quote is from like Heller or something, like from the original or from the actual Peruta case, the Ninth Circuit Court's opinion. But if it's in the context of the Supreme Court saying it, it's horrible. It's like saying there is no right to carry a firearm. But I don't think that's what the Supreme Court said. The Supreme Court said, we are not going to listen to this. Therefore, it stands with the lower court's decision until we decide to rule on this. So I don't think that it's, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that it's got to the point where the Supreme Court says, here's our decision. This is the law of the land. Don't bring this back to us because we've made our decision. They've simply said, we're not going to decide on this in October.
Yeah, that's kind of, I got the impression that's what was going on, is they were just putting it off, which, yeah, it's probably not a bad thing.
No, we want them to take it on because from what people were saying earlier in the Gun Channels chat, we've got a sympathetic Supreme Court, and because they said what they said about immigration, they probably would have gone pro-gun on the Peruta. So we'd rather have a good court, rule on it and be done with it already. And yes, your Second Amendment right extends outside the House. Heller says you have a Second Amendment right as an individual, but it doesn't even address where that right extends.
Oh, okay.
So Peruta is basically the state saying, we decide where you carry. You have this right to carry, but we decide where. And the Ninth Circuit said, yeah, that sounds right. And everybody else said, well, what the fuck? What kind of right is it that the state decides when and where you can exercise it? That's not a right. So that's why it went to the Supreme Court. And it's not like the Supreme Court said, okay, we've heard it, we've just debated on it, here's our ruling. The Ninth Court is correct, you don't have a right to carry. I think they simply said, this isn't something we're going to decide in October. Oh, it says, Chesney is saying the Supreme Court will not hear it, therefore the decision made by the Ninth Court is going to be the final decision. So if that's the case, if the Supreme Court saying that they won't hear it in October is them saying they will never hear it, then we are seriously fucked. We live in a place where we have a right, but the right is decided by the state. And that could let a state like Illinois that hates CCW say, oh, May issue is okay, then guess who can carry? None of y'all. None of you all. You and you can, but none of you all. So there you go. That happened overnight. So we'll be probably talking to Eric and Sean and not Brendan. Is it Brendan from FPC on the Every Second Matters this month or next month, I guess, July? And we'll definitely be talking about this, of course. Of course, we got Nelson coming up, which it's where you can carry from the open carry from the other corner of the country in Florida. So there might be something to it legally or strategically where they didn't want to rule on this one because they know they got Nelson coming. I'm not sure. Chesney is saying he wishes he could Chesney is saying they wish they could link the article from the LA Times. That's why we built gun channels. It allows people to log on anonymously, cause all kinds of havoc for the people trying to have a regular conversation, but it won't allow you to post a link unless you're a moderator. So gun channels is awesome. Remember, you can post a link over there in the comments. Anyhow, I think with that, we might as well dig in. We also, over the weekend, had the Voices of the West show on Saturday. I was talking to Dan a little bit off air about it. It's a podcast / radio show. So it's Emil Frenzy's show. Of course, I can't think of his name right now. Think of it when I'm not trying to think of it. But the two co-hosts, I can't think of his name. Because I'm trying to think of it. Anyhow, Harry Alexander and Bunker were Emil's co-hosts, and they've continued on the show. So they record it as a podcast live on Saturdays, and then it goes out as a radio show on Sundays. And that was a pretty fun experience, of course, just to talk to the old guys about cowboy stuff. And in this case, they were trying to feature the cards for their listeners, which was great. I really do appreciate that. It was fun to be on the show. It was a somber show because this was the first time I've been on the show since Emil passed. Emil Frenzy was the creator of the show and the host, and he passed away in June. So I'm dedicating the deck to him, and it was kind of cool to go on the show that inspired the deck to some extent, and definitely has inspired my interest in Old West cowboy guns. Those guys talking about it. I mean, it's really the what I'm basing this show off of. Those guys get together on Friday. People had asked about the show. Emil ran a 3-hour political show, like local politics from Tucson in Arizona. And Arizona is one of those states that's interesting. We have a lot of good gun laws and stuff, and I don't know how we do that because all of our local and city and counties are Democrats to no end. Like, they really like being Democrats, and they really, really like being these cities that exist by government grants and stuff. So very little ambition towards small business and helping small businesses out. We have a couple of big institutions like the universities and the prisons and Raytheon, and really just those giant industries and all the government stuff makes these cities run. So he had a really interesting show where he would kind of, as a libertarian, he was a Republican. We had a lot of libertarians on the show, very libertarian kind of stances and positions. They would kind of rage out for years, decades, on this AM radio on Saturdays. So they would do that show for 3 hours talking about politics, and then to decompress after that, they would do an hour of cowboy show. And it was, for the most part, focused around the Westerns, the movies and TV shows, since so many of them were filmed here in Tucson, and Emil is an old guy. So he was around for some of the filming. He's known both the actors and the real life people to some extent that were still alive. He's met many of the authors that wrote about. He's met a lot of the directors and just was involved to some extent with the locations and the scenes that they filmed these things at, both at the time, I think, and then definitely afterwards to keep them around. So it was just an interesting show, and they would talk about Arizona history. They would talk about the Apache situation, because that was kind of a Tucson thing with the Apaches, the Apache Wars and all that. We also had border raiders and stuff coming up from Mexico. So it was just ultimately a fascinating show. And when these guys would sit around as basically experts on the old movies and the stories and the books and stuff, they could dissect the movie in a whole different way than anybody else could who just, was an observer watching the movie. Like, things that come to mind are like they would watch a movie or talk about a movie on the show and talk about like the, Golden Boys that they dropped into the water when they were driving, across the river or something on horseback. And they were thinking about it, and they said, stop and think about that. When this movie was made in like 1950 or whatever, those weren't like plastic yellow boys that somebody whipped up in the the scenery tent and threw in the river. Those were just yellow boys. Those were like $50,000 rifles that they dropped into the water. And that's because back then they were $1,000 rifles, maybe, $100 rifles, because nobody cared. And they dropped a whole bunch of them in the fucking water. Now there's, very few of those, and those guns are worth 50 grand now. So just stuff like that was just ultimately fascinating. Anyway, so it was neat to sit on their show because of its relationship to the cards and everything. But then also, just because we've been doing this podcast and everything, it was neat to sit down with some real pros and watch them kick out a 1 hour show like professionals. It was really neat. And the way that they could, it's just old guys, they're cowboys really. If you saw them at the store or something, you'd go, oh, there's some cowboys, you know, I'm sure they go home and kick around horses or something. But you know, they were super comfortable with the mics. They had a bunch of notes, you know, laptop and everything. They just kicked it out like professionals. It was really cool, really good experience. So if you want to listen to it, I'll have a link to it on the playing cards. But I think Smeggy simulcasted it on the Daily Gun Show, so you can just go over to YouTube and watch Daily Gun Show channel. Watch the video there, where basically I had the phone, you know, running a lobby while we were live. So you get a little bit of behind the scenes that way too. Anyway, super good experience on Saturday.
Yeah, I watched the behind the scenes stuff and on the gun channels, and it was really entertaining. I started out watching on the other channel, the YouTube, I think. But then I went to gun channels, way better. Not just promoting gun channels either. But it got much more behind the scenes look, and this is really cool. Yeah, I thought you did really well too. I mean, you came off like pretty good. You know, you tell you had some experience doing that.
Right on. It's weird. We've been doing this for a while now, I guess, and this doesn't seem like anything, because this is just like being in a lobby like we are all the time when we're just chatting or whatever. And, you know, whatever, 20, 30, 60 people show up and listen to us live, and then maybe a couple hundred people listen to us after the fact. I don't consider that like a broadcast or nothing. So whenever I would call into like a radio show, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I'm stuttering and like, you know, I feel like I'm doing something for real. So it was, now you say that, it was kind of interesting. Usually if I was sat down at a radio show like that, so I've done that, I don't know, I've done a radio show a few times now in my life. I didn't even think about it this time. Yeah, I literally, whatever, butterflies or nothing like that, I just sat down and I was more interested in like how they were broadcasting, and like they were using Skype instead of Google Hangouts. You know, I was more interested in, more fascinated really with watching these two old cowboys, like super old cowboys, sitting in the office room, you know, just a weird situation with a bunch of laptops and microphones and a couple of electronic devices, just, you know, click, 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 bloop, bloop, bloop. Had some hand signals. You can tell they've done it for years. And I imagine it would be like what we would be like if we were sitting in a room having done this for a long time. Anyway. Yeah. Great. Well, I guess so we can dig into the show at this point. We're pretty late. So we like to talk about the show, give you an idea of what's coming up. Today, we talked about it a little bit already. Tomorrow is Tuesday. We'll talk about Second Amendment stuff. How to change states from may issue to shall issue. I probably wrote that. So how to change states from may issue to shall issue. It might actually be more tough now that we had this recent Supreme Court decision. We have a dead space on Tuesday, so I guess we're still figuring out what to do with that. So we could easily put a Q&A in there, or maybe we'll have a guest on. We'll see what we can do. And then we have the state of the state. And this week we will be talking about Maine. Interesting. I never think about Maine and guns. I don't know why. Then we got Wednesday entertainment. We'll be talking about Barney Miller. Man, I wonder if those are available anywhere. Maybe I haven't watched that show in forever. And other 70s and 80s cop shows. We'll be talking about good idea, bad idea, frangible ammo for self-defense. And if Smeggy's around, we'll do the hashtag Daily Gun Show showdown on Wednesday as well. Thursdays is our CCW and training day, so we'll be talking about weapons lights versus handheld lights. That's always an interesting discussion. The gun stuff, we'll be talking about wills. Probably not people named Will as much as the documents that you would leave your shit behind to other people die. And then online training. Wow, amazing. Talking about online training again. So one of these days we'll stop talking about online training and talk about something else. Then we got gun tech on Friday. Guns that the NFA, probably guns that like border the NFA or something, because it says the Shockwave. So guns that comply to the NFA but look like they don't, maybe. I'll put comply in here.
Guns that skirt around the edges?
That skirt makes it sound like connotation. So yeah, comply, that should be interesting. I'm a big fan of those myself. Gun Biz, we'll talk about the differences between manufacturers, wholesalers, and dealers, and why they should be treated differently regulation-wise. Interesting. And then for the alternative gun topic on Friday, we'll talk about, is a Derringer enough? I think we can all answer that one right now, but I guess we'll wait till Friday to do it. What do you guys think of the week? Oh, I guess we should also talk about what movies were. Oh, we don't have the movies in here. I guess we won't. All right, well, so that's the week. I guess we can just dig into something else, see if anybody's...
Yeah, other than our continuing online saga of online training.
Yeah.
And a couple of missing movies. Sounds all right. Well, we got something to talk about there.
No. We'll always fill in the time. Not, be silly here.
Well, there's a lot really to talk about with online training anyway. So, and online is a lot more attainable to most people, I'm sure, than classes, since you probably have to travel to a class. All right, so woke an old dog up. That's not that easy to do. So I guess we'll dig into how to use social media. Before we do, we usually take a break between the first and second segments of the show each day to feature one of the members over at Gun Channels. Gun Channels is a place we built, going on 4 years now. It's a community focused on firearms. There's all kinds of things to do there. Yes, we are having a problem with the sign-in right now, so no members have been able to log in for quite a while. We are working on it. Unfortunately, just literally, there's no excuse. I just have a lot of stuff on my plate. So I'm not technically doing it myself. I'm monitoring the people who are, and that's taking some time. It's not an obvious problem, or we would have fixed it already, but we appreciate everybody's patience with that. But otherwise, it's been up for 4 years, and aside from a couple of weeks here of issues signing on, it's been pretty easy for people to sign in. We have more than 5,000 members. Hundreds of them are paying members, and those are the people that keep the site going. There's no ads over there, so there's no obligation to pay to keep the site going, but the participation of the members is what keeps it going. And we've got dozens and dozens of people that are active, at least weekly, if not really dozens of people that are daily. So with that in mind, we like to feature one of the members over there. And today, it's one of the originals and one of the frequent flyers, Moon, or Autoloader. It's Moon Food over on Gun Channels. It's Autoloader over on the Instagrams. And again, when we built Gun Channels, that's exactly the kind of person I intended to build it for. Somebody who's creating content, doing their thing, adding their own particular flair to what's going on, doing it well, and having a good time, and sharing and exploring around and sharing what they find as they explore. So thanks, Moon, for keeping it awesome, really.
Yep, he's been around since the beginning, and I know he's helped me on a number of questions that I've had on various things that he's also had, and certainly a good addition to Gun Channel. So it's nice to have him around.
Bob or Daniel, would you say that, or I guess Bob could answer this too, would you say that Moon's YOLO attitude influenced your decision to go down and start training and getting hardened up?
Not sure.
Well, I'll just mark that as a hell yes. And thanks for that daily YOLO inspiration. All right, Russian hacking. What's Russian hacking? Let's see. Oh, messing with Gun Channels? No. Gun Channels is off-the-shelf software that I use, off-the-shelf add-ons, and it's just a conflict, and it's difficult to figure out what it is, what the conflict is. So it's just a technical little thing that don't happen very often. It happened only the one time so far in 4 years, but working on it. And it's just obviously annoying when people want to jump in because we say how great it is over there. So anyhow, we're expanding and growing like everybody. So as things update and upgrade, come into little binds like this once in a while. But anyway, I've had the playing cards on my plate. It's like 100 and something degrees out, which ain't fun. And then the city decided to give me a big fine for having never cleaned my yard, basically never cut the yard. And that's my fault. But they also were going to make me get rid of the van. So I had to build a wall around the van, and I've had to been dealing with my trailer. So I've been spending a few hours each morning fiddling with like some city obligations. But there's good news there. I finally.
Did you say you had to build a wall around your van?
Yeah, city ordinance says you can't have a non-running vehicle where you can see it from the street. So I had basically imagine like the side of my house a lot of people who own this kind of house property layout will not have a fence there and just run their RV up next to their house. So that's what I did. I pulled down this little fence and dragged my van up to where like you would park an RV if you wanted to be cool. It like docks to the back door of my house kind of, and basically you could see that from the street because it's just up the, you know, it's off the street. And then you know, my plan was to put a gate there, but since the van don't run, it's just sitting there. So I basically just had to put the fence back. So it wasn't a massive work. It's just that it's hot and I can only spend a couple hours out there without dying every day. Anyway, so that's my excuse for not having the gun challenge things fixed. It will be fixed as soon as we can, though. And it's, you know, so again, apologize for everybody that's it's been annoying too. But anyway, we're talking about social media. So one of the reasons we started doing this show on a daily basis is because I do want to sneak in a little bit of behind the scenes, a little bit of tech stuff for people that are creating their own content or just deciding whether or not they could or should. I think you definitely should. I want to encourage you to do so. I want to inspire you to do so. And I want to challenge you to do some stuff out there. I'm not telling you to be the next Hickok or anybody, because we don't need any more of that. We have plenty of that. That happens organically. When people are cool, people find them. But what I'd like to see is a lot more just regular people who share their 4x4s and their barbecues and their lawn work or whatever the hell it is, and then their guns. That is really what's going to empower the social media, this new media, to have influence. When the Bloombergs pay a marketing firm to tell the masses what gun owners are and try to spin what gun owners are, that only works when we hide in the shadows, when we are not out there. So part of this segment of the show is to get us, the individuals, to use these massively powerful platforms that are out here, incredibly technically easy to use, technically super powerful, and at our disposal. And what's even better is there's audiences of millions. Let's use that Kickstarter project just as a quick example. I'm flipping over to my Kickstarter and I'm going to the dashboard. Right now it's at $13,000, 400 backers so far. It's going to end in 3 hours, so I'm hoping that'll double still. But the amazing numbers, right? 400 backers. Of that, 24%, 26%, $3,500 of that came from Kickstarter alone. So if you think about it as a Second Amendment project, 3,000 people decided, $3,000 worth of people, however many people that is, 26% of 400, so pretty much 100 people, were just minding their business, kicking around on Kickstarter and found this. So how many thousands of other people were kicking around on Kickstarter and were exposed to a gun thing? So, I mean, I think that kind of stuff is cool. And that's when Bloomberg pays a marketing firm, or worse, Bloomberg comes into town and he hires all the marketing firms. He'll go to Phoenix and hire all the marketing firms to put out campaigns about universal background checks. Number one, that means that we don't have any marketing firms to pay, even if we had the money or the inclination to do so. But two, it means that you've got all the different clever tricks out there on how to make us buy Coke over Pepsi, getting out there on how to make this universal background check seem like a great idea, or whatever the hell the campaign is. So how do you defeat that? With no work at all, just everybody putting a little bit of time and effort in, everybody sharing what they do with guns. Think of people like Dead Horse, or think of people like Rick, who are just out there doing their thing. Or Artisan Tony, he's a perfect example. He's an inspiration for me. He's out there doing his thing, sharing it on YouTube, and then there's guns. It's not a major part of his life, it's a portion of it. So I dare anybody to sit in a room with Artisan Tony and tell him he's whatever the characterization that they're trying to demonize gun owners as. Anyhow, big preaching thing aside, we're talking about reposting or original content. So this week we're talking about, I think most of the time we think about this on Instagram, but I think it probably happens on Facebook a little bit. It can definitely happen on gun channels for sure. And then I don't know if it happens so much on YouTube. There are definitely some people who just talk about other stuff that's happening as opposed to creating their own on YouTube, and those can be pretty successful. So what do you guys feel about reposting or creating your own content? I mean, is it an and or?
Well, sometimes I have a problem when people don't make it clear that it's a reposting site, as if they're trying to claim credit for themselves, or they just don't say one way or the other.
I would call that personally like a link farm, when somebody's just gathering content, just popular content probably, from wherever and then posting it, not necessarily as their own, but they're not making it clear that this is somebody else's, like not really trying to link, just to create something that people want to click and then browse, surf, you know, hit an ad maybe, and then leave. Yeah, I agree with you there. That's abusive. But I think we can also think about somebody like Marco who reposts. He's super, I mean, he's never reposted anybody without making a note, but then usually he has some sort of relationship with people so that he, you know, they and he are both comfortable with him sharing their work.
Right.
Well, I like the only kind of reposting I probably do is I'll repost YouTube videos onto my Facebook, but that's just because yeah, that's real simple.
Okay, so we've got a question on the YouTube side. What is a reposting site? Never heard the term. So that's something else that I guess that's a good point. So again, I think of it on Instagram right now is the at least I'm most familiar. We had for a while, remember Concealed Carry Nation? I think he was down in like Mississippi or South Carolina or somewhere down there, and maybe even Georgia. Anyway, he was just a guy doing an office type of computer job and was reposting pictures he thought were interesting off the web that basically had to do with CCW. I think he was probably buying, I'm just assuming that he was probably trying to buy something and was just gathering reference pictures or something, and it caught on and he continued to do it, basically looking at, you know, many channels each day and choosing a picture or two out of all the ones that he would see that were interesting or the most appealing to him, and then he would post those pictures on his channel with a link back letting people know where to find that picture. So basically it's like the extract or the best of, so you can follow, like, let's say Bob's channel or my channel or Dano's channel, and I'm sort of a channel where I put out content, but every once in a while it's gonna be a picture of my dog or like my shoe if there's gum on it. Like, I don't care. I'm not selling stuff on my site. I'm not, you know, I'm not just trying to post the most extreme picture or anything. Dano posts whatever he feels like, maybe a picture to explain something or to share something he saw or purchased or whatever, gun shop. Bob posts like pictures of his adventures or whatever, and then like his dog in a lake for his family or something to see. So we're just posting kind of random stuff, and every once in a while there's that little kernel of gold where we find something neat or we get a good picture of something and we post it. So instead of having to watch 3 or 4 different channels and drudge through all their like birthday pictures and just normal stuff that they might post, or if it's a channel that only posts awesome stuff but only does it like once every 8 days, you could watch dozens of channels like that and only see a picture every once in a while. So what these reposting channels do is go out and search all that stuff, and then again only grab the extract, the stuff that's the coolest to look at, and then they repost it with a link back. So if you are the type of person that's looking for a lot of channels to follow, you can use a reposter to find interesting channels. Or if you don't have time to look at a million different things, you don't want to see everybody's birthday pictures, you can watch a reposter, especially a reposter that posts the kind of stuff you like to see, and see just that kind of stuff. So there's a couple I can think of out there. Hashtactical, we've had her on the show, out of California. She's a reposter, you could say, although she posts some of her own original content mixed in there. Probably a good 10% or more, really, of her own personal content. Yep. And her theme, you could say, is California Second Amendment advocacy and general, you know, Second Amendment advocacy. But she's definitely a big supporter of the grassroots stuff, the different projects that are happening in California. So I think she does a real service. When I was giving her praise when she was on the show, she has a way of creating a channel. It's much larger than my channel. I put effort into my Instagram channel. She gets way better results. She's a much larger channel. She goes out and she reposts interesting stuff that's fun to look at. Not so much of it that it's annoying, not so little of it that you forget about her. And then when there's an important thing to come up for California or the state of country, it's there, and she'll repost stuff that's important from the firearms policy or from 2A4CA, some of the other groups that are out there. And I think that's a real service. Like I say, she's able to attract a lot of viewers with the cool stuff, and then the important stuff is there too. Some of the reposters, though, I think like Odana was talking about, where they'll just grab whatever is a popular picture using the logarithm or just sorting by the most popular pictures, repost the most popular pictures, and then every 10th post, it's like a can opener, some widget, some piece of crap service or something that they're trying to actually sell. And that, I would consider that link farming. A little bit different, at least a little bit different goal is what they might be doing it very similar, but different goals in mind. Different relationships with the people they're either stealing or borrowing pictures from.
Yeah, well, I think if you just can, like, I mean, you were telling me you watermark stuff, or you just, if you can't do that to protect your own stuff, I mean, you just got to hope that people are going to be, nice enough to, put your tag in there, right?
Well, that's a good point. So we're talking about stuff on the internet. You put something on the internet, it's a file on the freaking internet. Anybody can use that file in any way they see fit. So you could try to lock that file down. It's going to be in vain, and I don't know if there's any reason to spend resources doing that. You really probably want your picture to be shared as much as possible, especially if it's something interesting that you want to get out there. So I think Bob makes up a great point, or brings up a great point. Putting a watermark on there, basically writing your name or putting your logo somewhere on the picture, is a great idea. I guess the only thing there is don't put it too close to the edge. It's real easy if you put it real close to the edge for someone to just crop, an inch off of each edge, and now there's no watermark on it. So people have been pretty creative to put them, kind of faded out, or, in the shadows, or, so it almost seems like part of the image and it just gets incorporated in there. And a lot of times you can tell a picture, you'll see a picture and go, oh, and then you read the watermark and verify, yep, I thought that's who it was. Because people have their style, like Autoloader, we were talking about Moon earlier. I can see one of his pictures in my feed, and I pretty much know it's his, and then I click on it, and then, yeah, there it is. It's got his watermark on it. But, it's not like he put this watermark on all huge. It's just that, he takes a certain style of picture with the editing or whatever that.
Just the way the photo looks.
Yeah, and it seems that, generally the better a person is at figuring out, what seems to work, graphically, the more they create their own style and the more identifiable they seem to be, whether it's Autoloader or whether it's Chris Steele or one of the other people that are out there, where I can look at one of their pictures and even before I see who it's from, I got a pretty good idea who it's from.
Yeah, exactly. Chris is another one, definitely unique, and you can tell right away. And then there's people that are emulating already.
Well, it's like when you're looking for a friend in a crowd, and he's easy to spot because he's always the one with the windbreaker on, no matter what the style is, right? It's just something that just makes it stand out.
Is that a hint? Is it? All right.
All right. So,
is it time? Is it time? Is it time for the tactical pop quiz? Yes, it is.
Good God.
So,
are you Bob Barker? Or wait, is he dead yet?
I'm not sure. He could be. You never know. But welcome. It's time for the tactical pop quiz of the day. So those of you over on YouTube and those of you on gun channels, put your cursor down in the text box. Limber up your fingers. G Webbs, can you be my assistant for today in picking out the winner? And have you seen the answer for today?
Yes.
All right. Excellent. I'll read the question twice. So here we go.
Wait, Dano.
How many rounds?
Dano.
Yes.
You're going to read the question twice, right?
How many rounds can the puckle gun fire? Again, how many rounds can the puckle gun fire?
.276 is wrong. 9, Arctic fire.
Yes. Arctic Fire, congratulations.
That quick. That's impressive.
Yes.
Arctic Fire. Way to
Good
go.
job, Arctic Fire. The correct answer is indeed 9, is how many rounds the puckle gun can fire. So congratulations, Arctic. You are our tactical pop quiz winner for today. Head on over to dailygunshow.com/pop quiz. Fill out the form so we can track who our winners are. And congratulations.
Now, if I'm correct, that was flintlock, rapid fire, kind of short range cannon kind of thing, right? But it was flintlock. Yeah. You know what, Arctic Fire? You know what that makes you? That makes you the tactical hot shot of the day, and that does hurt.
You thought I was kidding when I said that must hurt, huh?
Well, I thought like he was hammering. Yeah.
Al is saying that we already asked the question before.
Yeah, a while ago.
Well, if we did ask, now we have covered the puckle gun in regards to the gun of the day, but we have not done this specific question. And if we did, then how comes more people didn't answer it correctly or answer it at all?
Yeah.
I think people memorize every single tactical pop quiz question and answer.
Well, I would hope so. I mean, that's why they watch a show, is to gain knowledge. And there's no sense gaining the knowledge if you're just going to lose it the next day.
All right. Well, I think we were pretty much done. I don't like to keep stepping on the toes of that segment of the show, though, on Mondays. I know that's not 100% enthusiasm for it in this show, so I know I'm sticking it in there. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like to keep it out there because we do find people that are interested in some of the behind-the-scenes stuff. And you're always welcome to contact me or any of the other guys, moderators and admins and stuff over at Gun Channels. Ask questions. We can screen share and show you how to do things or have discussions. I'm more than happy when I've got the time to open up a room and have a whole chat on something specific. I'm going to have a whole bunch of interesting stuff to talk about after this Kickstarter. This is my second big successful one, and I've found all kinds of interesting stuff, kind of like what I alluded to earlier. The number of people that are just on Kickstarter alone is really eye-opening. And anyway, so there's some interesting stuff to do out there on the internet. I find out new stuff all the time. Worked with Tony a while back on a project, and that opened up a whole nother thing of stuff to look at. So anyway, so lots of projects in the works, and people that are interested in the nuts and bolts and trying to develop their own stuff. Consider Gun Channels a sandbox for all that kind of effort. So contact us anytime. You can contact the show here at dailygunshow@gmail.com. Speaking of contacting us, and we are always happy to take new questions for the Daily Pop Quiz. If you have a question and the answer would be nice, and if it's something that could be debatable, maybe some links to some references or something for your answer, but we do appreciate that. Otherwise, movies and gun shops are also things that you can help be part of the show by contributing. I think at this point we could do gun shop of the day. I'm gonna move this one.
Yeah. Which shop we got in there?
Really a gun shop. So since we're talking about the cards ending today, I'm gonna keep it kind of card theme, and we're gonna talk about a museum more than a gun shop. So this is called the Tombstone Western Heritage Museum. It was run by Marge and her husband, and her husband has passed, and so now it's hers. And it's not open every day. It's open less and less actually. And anyway, so that happens as businesses and family-run businesses. Things change and the businesses change. Anyhow, I've known Marge for a while now and had the opportunity to go down and see the museum, even when it's closed. I can't even count how many times now, quite a few. And it's always interesting because it's a gun museum, but it's also, like it says, Tombstone Heritage or Western Heritage. So she's got games and clothes and medicine stuff and some poker stuff, and it's a fairly large, I think it's 3,000 square feet. So anyway, a lot of varied stuff and pretty much a label on everything. So you could just spend forever, you know, seeing why are these thimbles in here and what was the story about them, and just fascinating. And it's neat because it's in Tombstone, Arizona, so it's not like you're seeing it at the Chicago Museum or something where you're removed from where it came from. You know, you're looking at some Tombstone newspapers that were printed in Tombstone and may have, but probably haven't ever left the couple of square miles. You know, they got printed, delivered to somebody's house, eventually got into that museum. You know, it's pieces of paper that haven't moved, but hundreds of feet in hundreds of years, or maybe 100 years. So anyhow, some pretty neat place, and I think they've got some pictures here. We'll go to the photo album. I don't know enough about the history to tell you much, but I can show you through some of the pictures. This gives you an idea of what the place is like and how full it is. This here is a Winchester that was from it's an incomplete Winchester, so it was taken off of the factory floor, and it's a yellow boy, I believe, and this was supposedly on the wall of the president of Winchester back in the day. So one of a kind type of thing. This is the back end of the shop where she had this like military Jeep and some other kind of more modern stuff. I guess that has nothing to do with guns or all this history. Here's some of the guns. I think we've got one of these guns out, maybe this one, out for the card deck. 1911.
Now, I got a question. That one revolver towards the top with the really long barrel.
Mm-hmm.
What's the practicality of having a barrel of that length? Is that like old style hunting with a pistol?
I think so. This was back for stupid ass NFA laws. So you could buy something like this in one of them cool stock load adapter dealies, and probably give yourself like a dual rifle type of thing. You know, carry it around for in. It looks like it's a 22, so I'm guessing, yeah, if you want to be able to shoot a rabbit or something far off, or maybe just for competitions, I really don't know. But it's a good question. I've definitely seen a lot of them. It was a thing.
You know, and it's kind of funny that you say the NFA, because sometimes I forget when I'm looking at old time stuff, there was no NFA back then.
Nope, they still trusted each other.
Yeah.
And this is another some of the stuff, but each of these is a little label so you can read everything. Go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to say they trusted each other, but they also stayed armed.
Well, yeah, they didn't trust everybody. They trusted civilized people, not the savages. Like the Canadians, unruly Canadians come down here, you don't know what's going to happen. So I guess it wasn't the best tour, but that's what you get for the admission price. It was one of the contributors. She let us, Marge let us come down. Heavy B, who does a show, used to do a show on Fridays. I'm trying to talk him into doing a Wednesday night show. And then Jimmy James, host of the Early Watch. They came down from Phoenix, and we met up in Tucson, went down to Tombstone, and she allowed us to come in and check out the museum. I gave the guys the decks of cards so that they could search around for real guns that had shitty pictures in the deck. So as they found the cards, Marge and I would go over and open up the case and pull the guns out and take some better, good pictures of them, put them back in the case for her. So it was a great experience. And although it's not open all the time, I've asked her about trying to do like a web museum, but it doesn't make any sense. There's no way you could get enough money to make it worth the time and effort. But maybe if we can figure out something, there'll be more of this museum online in the future too. But if not, when you're down there, if you go down there during one of the busy times, we're going to be talking about events here in a second, but when there's busy times in Tombstone, that's when they'll open up. So it's down on the east end of town and kind of north. It's 1 block north in the main tourist part of town. And you'll see it's a big white building. And if it's open, check it out. $7 to get in. It's cheaper than the Gunfighter Museum. Definitely more cool guns in there. Well, about the same amount. No, there's probably more guns in her museum. The Gunfighter Museum is laid out pretty well, but he didn't want to have nothing to do with the cards, so we're not going to give him a play. All right, with that, we got 35 viewers, so I'm going to take the opportunity to send you over to the Old West deck cards. You can see it's 409, what did that say? 209%, 218% funded, 409 backers. We have 645 backers, I think, on the AK cards. So hopefully there's some room for growth here in the next 3 hours. I'm going to send the link out there to the YouTube and the gun channels, and I'm going to ask everybody to help spread the word, repost it on whatever your social media platform. I'm hoping that you know, the urgency of the last couple hours of the project. Oh, yeah, it took off. You know, the last couple of hours of a project might get people to impulse buy it, and I'm really hoping that if I can keep it kicked up, you know, as it expands. Did it show you that little dashboard? When you look at the funds coming, you see this little spike that's happening towards the end. It was real consistent growth. Thank you everybody for that, but it's getting this really spiky growth. I'm hoping that that triggers something over on Kickstarter and they put me on the front page, because I think I mentioned earlier, a third of the money that's come in already, no, 25%, a quarter of the money that's come in has been just from Kickstarter. So I imagine being on the front page in the last hour or so might be pretty good for the project just in general. And again, this is a Pro 2A project, so I couldn't be happier with the success it's had. It's in big part to the shares. One of the things that I'm not happy about Kickstarter is back in when I did the first ones, I did an unsuccessful one for the AK cards, and then we did a year later a successful one. It used to tell you how many shares. I was really proud of that. It had, like, you know, so many Facebook shares, so many Twitter shares. Now I don't know how to report that. It doesn't show me. So anyway, the reason that this is 409 people found out about this isn't from this show. Only 30 people listen to this show, right? So that 400 people were from everybody out there sharing it and helping to spread the word. And obviously I'm profiting on it, but I also am encouraged because that's everybody getting together and spreading the word on a project. If this was something important, like a Second Amendment issue, like the SHARE Act, if there was something, some call to action, you know, that's us exercising that a little bit. I'm also excited because, again, it is a Second Amendment project up on a platform that's typically not gun friendly. I wouldn't say they're unfriendly. They're just not a big gun place. There have been a few gun related projects. I'm just going to type gun into Kickstarter and we'll see what happens. There's some movies and stuff. A couple of them are anti-gun. Fishing gun. That sounds pretty neat. Some movies and some songs every once in a while. Looks like here's some different games. Here's a Rod and Gun Club, documenting the 6-year history of the Brooklyn Rod and Gun Club. Wow, that would have been pretty cool. 236 backers. Haas did one up here for his documentary, I think on Kickstarter. Jaeger, I'm pretty sure, did his on Kickstarter. Range 15 did theirs on Kickstarter. And that was a giant big budget movie, millions of dollars. So, but if you scroll through here, it's just not that much stuff. It's a lot of these weird, like, I don't know what these are, hipster bands or something. Here's some kind of a video game controller. Like I say, they won't let you do a gun or nothing. They won't even let you do fake guns, really. But, you know, you can do Second Amendment stuff, and you can do videos and films, and you could do audio, I'm sure. And here's some puppies with guns. So, again, there's not a heck of a lot of gun stuff, but I appreciate everybody's who's allowed us to be a big successful one here, 218%. I know it's not a big thing, but somebody's going to be scrolling through through Kickstarter at some point in time. And just like I'm looking at these old ones came up in here, you know, that are expired, like this one, they're going to see the 236 backers back that one. Well, they're going to see this deck of cards, and they're going to see the whatever 300 something backers. You know, that's awesome. Or 400 something backers. That's awesome. So hopefully this is something that you know, makes a cool thing. I think it is. People have had a lot of fun with the cards, holding them in their hand. I think the form factor is kind of fun for people. And anyway, appreciate it. And there's the link. And I want to encourage you again to share the project. Right now, 400 people brought in all this scratch. I figure another 100 people, and I'm on the road with the van. So if we can get 100 people in the next 3 hours to think, yeah, $15 ain't that bad. That's another $1,500. The transmission and everything is what, 700. The engines. Okay, I'm not gonna turn into a van chat. Anyway, we're getting at the point where I'm really thinking there might be some travel, and that's awesome. So that means I might be able to watch the cards being printed, and as they finish printing them up, get in the van and fart around, look at gun shops in Dallas or whatever, come pick them up, and then start delivering them to like the Cody Museum, to Tombstone museums and stuff.
Oh, that'd be kind of neat. That would be neat if you could personally deliver them. That would just be the bonus.
Yeah, I could go to gun shows and set the table up with some of these cards and yeah, be able to adventure, continue the adventure.
That's the bonus. Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I'll be talking about that live. The project ends in 3 hours, so as soon as this show ends, I'll probably take a break and hopefully get some people together. We'll go live on Kickstarter, so it'll be live on Gun Website's YouTube channel and on Kickstarter. Maybe if I can figure it out, Facebook as well, just to get as much coverage as possible, and then answer questions, let people know about how fun it's been, and what to do with the cards. Like I said, we came up with some other games you can play with them, just playing around at the restaurants and stuff. Anyhow, we'll keep digging in. Did you get to see them, Bob? They didn't exist when you were down here, huh?
No, they didn't exist yet. I got some of the early.
When I had them printed out, did I have them printed out on pieces of paper yet?
Yes, yeah, I got the early printed out, the early deck printed out. Yeah.
So okay, that's enough commercial for the deck. But again, really do appreciate everybody's participation in that. It's just been awesome. So okay, I'm gonna narrow cast out there. John said you should start your own Kickstarter and call it PpStarter. There was a gun Kickstarter, and how was it called? Somebody can help me remember what it was called. It was a gun crowdfunding thing, so it was gun friendly, and they encouraged people to come up with like gun related stuff, like gun accessories or guns themselves. And at that time, I was trying to do either Every Second Matters or the AK-47 cards. I think it was the AK-47 cards, and I really wanted to do it on their platform, but it was like it didn't work with PayPal. People would have had to go to a strange processor I'd never heard of in order to even use it, and I was just not sure of that. So I had asked them, since I anticipated it being a large project, $10,000 plus, I can't afford to screw around and owe people that kind of money, right? I need it to be working system. It needs to work. I can't help somebody troubleshoot their shit with that kind of money. So I contacted them, and I never got a response back, ever. And then before I knew it, they were on Full 30 as like a channel, like doing videos. And then they just didn't talk about the crowdfunding thing. So I think we actually did, I know we did the one generation, I think it was the first PVC patches from gun channels. We did as that platform, and it worked. But I was kind of using that as a test run to do the AK-47 project, the cards. And the whole time that other project ran, I never got a response from them. And everybody, like, I don't know, 12 people or something responded to that one. It didn't even get funded, but it did work. It was like Indiegogo. Even though only 12 people participated, the funding went through, and I just bought the patches anyway. But anyway, it was just not. It was anyway. That was the only gun-related one out there, and I haven't seen one come around. So I don't know if it has something to do with not having a payment gateway. Because if PayPal's not going to be gun-friendly, which it isn't known to be, then you're kind of screwed. You'd have to use something else. So until people get comfortable with Bitcoin or something. All right. Well, so sorry to narrowcast it there. Kids will be suspended for bringing decks to school. I wonder if that's the case. You think kids will get suspended by bringing the Old West guns to school? I guess I didn't hear about any getting suspended with the AK cards.
I can't see it. Just because, I mean, they're old-timey, they're Old West, right? They're not tactical.
Steadily says the principal just confiscated him for himself. And that's the thing. It's not that they're cracking down more, they just don't pay the teachers enough. So they're going to confiscate everything just because they can't afford anything anymore. Like, oh, you got a handheld game system? I'm confiscating that. And then they sell it at the pawn shop later. All right, well, so I think we'll move on with the show. That was our gun shop of the day. We do try to feature a new gun shop every single day. It's one of the reasons Bob and I started doing this show on a daily basis, 341 episodes or something ago. And we haven't reached our goal of hitting a new gun shop every single one of those times. But man, I can taste it. Did I tell you, Bob, I cleaned the, this is going to turn into a van chat, but Dano's gone, so nobody can complain. So Smeggy's not even here, so nobody can yell at us. So I had the city got mad at me for having weeds everywhere, and then because I got the van that doesn't have any license plate on it anymore, because it's broke down, right? So I can't take it over to emissions. I can't get a license plate. So you got to have that kind of vehicle behind a fence or a bunch of other things. So I figured I'd put my fence back up. So I had to get out there and weed eat it, and so I weed eated all around it, and was looking for something. So I opened it, and the dog was like, "Oh shit!" The van just opened, and he came a running, got up in there. I put the doghouse thing back in the front so he wouldn't fall through the engine anymore. And man, it was like going into the fountain of youth or something. Like he just turned 10 years earlier, 10 years younger, and he was just sitting in there having a good old time. So anyway, I went out there this morning for a bit when it was cool out still, right when I was in the middle of weed eating, basically. Took a break and went live for a little bit. And man, I definitely want to get in that damn van again. That thing is just the perfect size. I know you've been talking about having something so much bigger, and I can understand being able to stand up and walk around and have like a little room. But you know, I've been thinking earlier, or recently, I guess, because Joe has that little minivan. I was thinking about $1,000 minivan, just making do with a minivan. But man, being able to, you know, I can't stand in there, but I can walk. You know, I can crouch down and walk around in there. You know, have things at arm's reach and not hitting me in the elbows everywhere.
Yeah, minivan would be pretty tight for you.
Yeah, I'm really digging that, man. It's been months, months. It didn't help at all jumping in there today. Now I'm getting back. I got the van in my blood again. So anyhow, I guess I'll try to contain myself, and the deck card thing will probably turn into a van chat here in a bit. But anyway,
Yep.
We'll keep going. I also got a reprieve. So the guy that fined me or whatever got me. He was a nice guy about it, and gave me an extra 15 days for my trailer. So I can continue to try to sell it. I can go get some tires for it. I don't know if I really want to put a trailer hitch on my cop car, because it's just going to give me no clearance, and it's already hitting everything in the ass all the time anyway. So maybe take somebody else's vehicle over that has a trailer hitch on it and get it licensed. But then once it's licensed, especially once I got a van going, that thing's going to be the perfect little companion to a van or a car.
Hell yeah.
Put the motorcycle or something in there with toolbox on the front. Yeah. So I'm glad I didn't have to get rid of it, because I would want to replace it. I do like the concept of it. I just need to get off my butt and get it running now.
Yeah, especially if you got a cap that fits it, then you've got an enclosed trailer.
Nah, see, I was talking about that earlier too. I don't think I would, because it's such a small bed. I was out there again fiddling with it, trying to put air in the tires to move it, and it is a small bed. I can't lay down in it. So what I would do is just put a toolbox up front, put coolers or whatever, like if I get a little bike or something, stick it in there to drag it around. But mostly have like a patrol box. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, like just a big camping box, you know, with all your stuff in it.
Yeah.
And a cooler or two, and then some poles and shit. So I would put a pole on each corner and then a roof over it. And then that way I could have a canopy coming off at either side, depending on where the sun is. And then a shade over it, and then have the tailgate as like a little place to work off of, maybe a couple of seats or something in there, and then just a little camp area. So I wouldn't want it to be enclosed. I'd rather have it kind of open like that.
Yeah, that's cool, because you can get those little 10-foot canopies that are dirt cheap and fold up to nothing.
Yeah, or like even the military shade cloth stuff that's like a net with the flaps and shit in it.
Yeah, but they're not waterproof. Oh, I guess don't rain.
Yeah, what do I care about waterproof? I just want shade and wind.
Yeah.
So anyway, on a personal note, I had a reprieve from, it was an impending $700 to $1,000 fine if I didn't get that trailer out of there by this morning. I had it up on Craigslist. I called around for pieces to take it. They won't just take it. The places that pay you to take stuff won't take it. Yeah. My only other option was to pay somebody to take away a thing that I paid $200 for to avoid getting a fine on it. And the guy turned out to
and they're probably going to get $50 for it for scrap.
Or just sell the damn thing, you know, as a no title trailer. They're all over Craigslist for $400. I put it up for a couple of hundred, thinking, you know, I could get haggled down and be happy. But you know, there's other ones up there that are worst case or worse shape or even shittier. Or trailers are expensive. Anyway, you might be able to keep it, so I'll get it titled up.
Oh, that's cool.
was in the trailer, I guess. Anyhow, so let's talk about the gun of the day. I think we completely bored our listeners listening to a van chat. Into a van.
But you put this one in here. This is a Russian PSK.
I put this in here. You had this in here. It's right fucking on it. Here.
Hey guys,
look, it says Canada right on it.
Oh wait a minute, which one is this?
It's this Russian PPS 50 Gen 2 again. So it's that Russian.
Okay, it's a 22 caliber one. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Didn't we already do that?
Yeah, we did. I think somebody's like put the gun in there.
All right.
Well, let's do something interesting.
What?
Let's do something different. Okay.
Let me see if I can just pull up the picture. I'm going to do a different one. Because we already did that one, right? I think I can pull it up like this.
Yeah, we did that last Monday.
Yeah. I think this will work. It'll just take me a minute to find it. Oh, this show's going to hell. So let's see. Events. What we taking over? Events. Nope. Events. Under resources. Firearms calendar. Actually, I can go to the main page.
Who didn't fill in it?
Huh?
I say, who didn't fill in events?
We never do. It's just always down here in the calendar.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Somebody put in Tank Saturday. What is Tank Saturday?
Saturday.
All right, I'm almost to where I found the pictures.
Tank shows are just as good as gun shows.
There we go. So that can be our gun of the day when we're ready. Tank show. See a live tank battle. Historical battle reenactments and more action in our tank arena. Very special guests serving and retired soldiers, veterans, equipment from the Gulf War, also known as Operation Friction by Canadian forces, Operation Desert Shield, and Operation Granby will also be on hand. So it looks like it's on the 8th in where it is. Oh, it's in Canada.
Oh,
so
that looks badass.
Where is Oshawa?
Oh, Oshawa, Ontario.
Yeah, where is that? Is that far from you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're right there. You're gonna go to it?
No, it'll take me a couple of days. Maggie's close to it.
Oh. All right. Well, that's cool. He posted that in there, so you can see he posted it.
Maggie's probably closer than I am.
All right. I don't know if he said he's going to it or not. Maybe that's where he's at right now. Oh wait, it's not. That's in July. All right. Well, so anyway, that's looks like the first thing we got coming up. Then we got Outdoor Retailer, which is also in July 26th, same weekend as TriggerCon, which is up in Washington State. It sounds like a couple people from gun channels might be going to that. Oh snap! I've already got a link to Match Chat. So that's going to have a media day and everything. So hopefully that'll be something that they're able to create some cool content and provide some, I don't know, first looks or more extended looks at some sort of products that people care about. It's usually what those shows are all about. But I think if you just want to go and lay fingers on triggers, the other 2 days, like the first 2 days are for media and the other 2 days are for anybody who wants to show up and pull triggers. So those kind of exposition shoots are usually pretty cool. But I'd recommend going as media. There's usually less crowd. Sometimes they feed you. Back in the day, they used to give us all kinds of free stuff, like magazines and, I don't know, swag or whatever, shirts and things. I guess it depends on how much they're trying to suck up to you. And then, anyway, so it's always a fun experience. Then we got the bullpup shoot. Actually, I just got an email today with my media credential stuff for the bullpup shoot. So it's in September, I have no idea what's going to happen. I'm not trying not to jump into a band chat, but I'm going to jump over here and see how the cards are going. As we creep closer to 16,000, I can comfortably say I'll be at this shoot, but otherwise, where'd it go? Where did it go? Otherwise, Dano might go because I just got media credentials for there. So maybe that'll be enough to talk him down to go down there. If he can get in and be whisked around like a media big shot.
Media big shot. Plus, he's got all that tactical training. He'll have all that confidence.
Oh yeah, except he can't appreciate bullpups now that he's hardened. He dismisses them as toys. So September 9th, that's too soon for you. You're not going to be down here that early?
No, not this year, no.
And then we got September 16th, Tombstone Territorial Days. I'll be mentioning more about Tombstone. I hope to at least be going down there again to say thank you to the people that gave me the pictures and to give them some decks when they're out, to deliver decks to the Mercantile down there. I'm hoping to work with the Pistol Gallery as well because they have a pistol and poker gallery and they were really interested in the cards. So hopefully I'll be down there at least to take some pictures and bring the cards down and then work out something with them where, I don't know, maybe we can do something with, at least with Heavy and Jimmy and Bob when he comes back down, but maybe even something else where if somebody's able to get to Arizona, you know, they get a, I don't know, day in the hotel down there or something. That Mercantile, you know, the one where I'm going to have the cards, Bob, the one that had all the guns and stuff on the far end, they had the ice cream shop.
Yep.
Turns out that's a hotel. I never paid any attention, but that's a hotel also. So you can stay in that building, olden days upstairs rooms.
Yeah.
You see that?
Oh, I never noticed that.
Yeah, so they're upstairs. There's like the fancy one. I think they call it the prostitute room or something, is like really big and it has its own balcony. Can you imagine being able, it's $89 or something? Like the fanciest room is like 120 or 100 or something, and then
which one of the store clerks is the prostitute though? I'd have to see that first.
Well, all I'm saying,
I don't want an ugly.
all I'm saying, can you imagine spending $100 for the fancy room or less to be able to stay in Tombstone, Arizona, in an old-timey room in an actual old building on the main street? I never even thought about that, but that is a pretty neat experience, I think.
It'd be pretty badass.
It's the kind of place where there's no bathrooms. Like the bathroom is you got to go down to the or no, the one fancy one has its own bathroom, but all the other ones you go use the same bathroom because it's old.
Use the one in the hall.
Yeah, there's no TVs. So you're just sitting there in an old ass room, maybe read a book or play cards, I guess. And man, I think that'd be neat as shit. Because you know all the tourists probably leave around 9. So
yeah.
Or just right. And then you would kind of be able to just have old Tombstone to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd be cool. I never even thought about that. Anyhow, so
midnight.
Where we were, yeah.
Yeah, that would be cool. Anyway. Yeah. Well,
we were doing that gun. So I think we should do the gun of the day, which is going to be this gun.
Which gun?
So I came up with this yesterday. I was trying not to start a big project, so I just pulled up the artwork from this Jack of Diamonds from the cards, and it's the knuckle duster thing that's so kind of unique looking. A little revolver with really. And then this isn't a trigger. This is how you hold it. That little thingy there is the trigger. So anyway, I put it in my software, and I turned it into a patch, and then in the middle of the night I sewed it out just to see what it would look like, and then did a rough draft of it here. So I was thinking in this live thing later I might give some of these away. I haven't made them yet, so I only have the one, but I might do something like that for people that are participating at the last minute, or I don't know what to do. We'll be talking for a couple hours over there, so we'll fiddle with it. But anyway, I figured this could be our gun of the day. It's the knuckle duster. I'm thinking about on the cards changing it from knuckle duster and then putting down here invented by whoever the hell Reed, because I just think that's more consistent with the other cards to just whatever put the inventor down here instead of, and then I can make knuckle buster a little bit bigger and it'll go easier to read. Anyhow, according to my research, they only made 1,100 of them, not even, between the years 1868 and 82. So what is that? 12, 14 years that thing was around. That's not very long, really.
Yeah, but it was being built during those years.
Well, but only 10,000 were produced, and then they didn't succeed. You know, nobody was buying it, so they quit making them. They haven't made too many replicas, really. I can't imagine a couple of thousand more replicas.
Well,
so
it seems like the kind of gun you got to get real close and personal with.
Well, and that doesn't lend itself to single action, and that's the problem, I think. Since you got to pull that freaking hammer back like a Derringer super far, that has nothing to, it doesn't lend itself at all with having this thing jammed up into somebody's rib cage or something, or in their grill, right? So it needs to be double action if it's going to be a viable gun.
And that's where the little double barrels were.
Yeah, that's why double barrels, there was no double action double barrel. Double actions had the same problem. You get one shot, maybe, but if you got this thing jabbed into somebody's clothing, and all it's got to do is interfere with that hammer coming forward, which isn't all that strong. It's a freaking 1868 gun. So that thing's about as powerful as a BB gun. So all you got to do is get some kind of clothing or something in the way, and that gun isn't going off. And then you got to figure out how to untangle it to get it back, and there's no spur on here. So I don't see this being a very effective. I think it's more of a novelty, but I think it's a novelty gun. It's cool as shit. I'd love to own one.
Oh, yeah. And you could kind of see it across the poker table, just reach out and just like boom, 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 boom.
At a poker table, it would make all kinds of noise and be cool. Give you that, like...
Yeah. Noise and smoke, and then you could run away and hide. You probably didn't hit anything.
Yeah, it was 22 rimfire, so that was basically not short. It wasn't really long yet. They just called it 22 rimfire back then. So I have a picture of a 22 long rifle on here. I got to change that, I think. Actually, this is a 22 long. A 22 long rifle would have a way bigger projectile and a shorter case. So I think I might leave that one, actually. It wasn't 22 short. That's the thing. It was a 22 rimfire. But 22 rimfire black powder, right? So I can't imagine what kind of power. I don't think there is any modern 22 black powders, are there? That are made.
No, they're Gun Geek, gun channel up in Canada. It's some videos where, because he has a black powder 22 rimfire gun, he reloaded some regular 22 round black powder, and yeah, they work just fine. And it's lower velocity, of course.
Well, that's the thing. What kind of velocity do they have?
On the rifle, it was up around 800, 900 feet per second in something like that little belly duster, knuckle duster. I bet it wasn't more than 500 feet per second.
I figured they wouldn't be very fast, but 800 to 1,000 is pretty good. Anyway, so that's what the van looks like now. It's penned in. But it lets the dog walk around a circle around it now. So he's super happy. He's happy but frustrated.
Yeah, at least the dog can walk around the van now.
Yeah, he's like, hey, I found the van. He's like looking at me, like, look what I found. Let's go. Then we go in there, and we're sitting in there for a while. He's like, what are we doing? What are we still here for? Then I'm like, all right, let's go back in the house. What's this? No. I found the van.
He really does the same thing. Like sometimes he just insists on getting in the truck. I'll let him in the truck, and then I just go and do my shit for half an hour or something, come back, open the door, and he's like, what the fuck? Man, you just left me in the truck, and now you want me to get out without taking me for a ride? Dogs are weird that way. Probably just end this one. I think we've pretty much run out of everything. Do we have anything left?
Oh, no, we got a couple of things. So today's an important day, actually. The reason I had the Kickstarter end today is because of the anniversary of the Heller decision. And that's one of the very few Supreme Court decisions. I was wondering if there was any significance to them waiting till today to talk about the Zapruder one. So I think that was just coincidence. It just happens to be this time of year that they do this stuff. So anyway, this was the anniversary of the Heller decision. The Heller decision was a Second Amendment issue that went to the Supreme Court. Gotta go find the date here. So it went to the Supreme Court, and it basically reiterated, it reinforced the concept that the Second Amendment is an individual right, as opposed to the right of some state militia. So it was the Second Amendment, it was the Supreme Court of the United States verifying that the Second Amendment applies to the individual. However, it didn't go so far as to say in all cases or at all times. It just said it's an individual right. And then they left it. So anyway, that was in 2008, and we've lived in the wake of the Heller decision. We've lived in an incredible time as far as firearms go in this country, this United States, where when I moved to Arizona in the early 90s, if someone would have suggested there'd be concealed carry in any of the states that didn't have it back then, I would have probably taken a bet that we're not going to see it. There was no movement, there was no tide, there was no rising, demand for it. It wasn't even a thing that people asked for. It was just a thing that people assumed they couldn't have. It wasn't even brought up as far as I was aware, and I was pretty much into guns my whole life. So it just wasn't even a thing. And 2008 happens, and now we live in a country where every single state has some form of concealed carry. So it's incredible. It's not even, well, it's, I guess, what, 8 years. So 8 years, and what are we talking? 20 states changed. 5 of them were pretty major. So we live in a pretty fun time right now. It might not always seem like it, but it's a time that individuals have an ability to make a difference, and working together, we have made a difference, and we can continue to do so. In the wake of something like this, a decision by our Supreme Court. We have a good Supreme Court right now. So I think we've got some potential. In addition, it is the anniversary of one of the worst things in gun history, at least in our country, and that is the National Firearms Act. So today, in 1934, the National Firearms Act was brought about by the lawlessness and rise of gangster culture during Prohibition. Franklin D. Roosevelt, hoped this act would eliminate automatic fire weapons like machine guns, submachine guns technically, from America's streets. Other firearms such as short-barreled shotguns and rifles, parts of guns like silencers, as well as other gadget-type firearms hidden in canes were also targeted. All gun sales and gun manufacturers were slapped with a $200 tax, no small amount for America mired in the Great Depression. That tax today would be like $2,500 whenever this was written, on each firearm. And buyers were subject and required to fill out paperwork and subject to Treasury Department approval. So June 26, 1934, day they'll live in infamy as well as the other dates, the National Firearms Act. It was the first national firearms legislation after the Second Amendment, 137 years, something like that, 134, 137 years after the Second Amendment, they decided, you know what, Second Amendment doesn't work by itself anymore. Now we need federal firearms legislation. I think that it's worthy of much more interest. This is something that there should be documentary movies about, dramatizations of it, stories of the individuals, either the corrupt sons of bitches or the communists or whatever the fuck came up with this. There should be like dramatic movies that get people by the feels and make people angry that shit like this has been perpetrated on us. There should be movies that talk about the hidden evils of shit like this thing being enacted. But I also think it'd be interesting for just more educational stuff to exist, because I think there's a lot of stories here. I've heard things such as one of my most one of the best descriptions of the 34 National Firearms Act that I like is to put it in the perception or the perspective of technology at the time. So in the 1930s, the police, local police, were frustrated and stymied by vehicles. You could drive, a car now. You could steal a car and drive away from a sheriff or a constable or a police car or whatever it was, right? They didn't have radios and stuff like they got now. You had to get out and talk on a talk box or something, or maybe you did have a radio, but that doesn't mean the next town over had a radio. And if there was state police or something like that, there was maybe 4 for the state. So just they didn't have law enforcement like they have today. Technology allowed people to just walk away from a crime, and although it would be as wanted posters based off their description. It was a joke. Now those wanted posters in another way were part of the story, because you got your interest in criminals in this country, and probably every country, is just a factor of society. I don't think it's unique to the United States, but people are always fascinated by people who live on the extremes, and one of the extremes is criminals, right? So if you think back to the dime novels and all the, going back to the cowboy guns and stuff, all the gunfighters and the exploits and all this tall tales, right?
Technically, Robin Hood was a bad guy.
So there you go. You're Robin Hood, who took money back from the tax man and gave it back to the oppressed. So, yeah. So you've got your stories like that we're always amplifying and exaggerating what actually happened. So you've got a culture from the cowboy days. Now you've got the Dust Bowl days and the Depression, and you've got gangsters who can, like Bonnie and Clyde type of gangsters, whatever you want to call, like non-organized crime, although organized crime also happened right then, but just criminals who would be in gangs. And they'd be looking for infamy. They would steal some money, and they'd be, all about the wanted posters and figuring out how much fame they were accruing. And there was movies made about them and their adventures, and dime novels, and everybody was digging it. It was like a like a facet of our society or whatever. So all of that.
Reality TV before there was reality TV.
Yeah, there's always been that fascination with the bad guys doing the bad stuff. Well, all that bullshit, agenda-based, just making a couple of bucks type of let's not worry about the future, got people all concerned about the sawed-off bar that stupid Bonnie and Clyde carried around, or the Thompson so-and-so used, for one incident. So anyway, it blew it all out of perspective. I believe there was a lot of media hype. I believe the communists were probably behind it, even though it might sound a little tinfoil hat, but if they can control the narrative, and they put out a narrative that machine guns are the bad thing, individual self-interest doesn't trump the state, then the state should lock down who can control what pieces of property and technology, and who should have this kind of power over who, and disarmed populace should be subservient to the police, and then all of that. At least that opened the door for all that shit. And then you've got stories about what the NFA was going to encompass. There's a lot of talk about the NRA and the NFA. So the National Rifle Association started in what, 1780 something? Long time ago. It was our first national had anything to do with firearms organization. There was no laws. This was just a group of people, basically generals, that felt people needed to keep practice up so that they could become marksmen when necessary, or be good marksmen when necessary. So they encouraged competition, and the NRA basically minded its P's and Q's, worrying about competitions, from what I understand, until the NFA. And I don't know if they were pro or con, but somehow the NRA, I've got the story both ways, that the NRA and the NFA kind of butted heads, and the NFA originally was going to outlaw pistols. Handguns were going to be part of the NFA, registered just like a machine gun or a sawed-off rifle or a suppressor are today, or like a 40-millimeter grenade might be today. It would be that difficult to get a pistol starting in 1934. Can you imagine a world where you can't get a pistol without going through a $200 tax stamp? Talk about a lack of innovation and technology and just evolution. I mean, can you imagine the innovation in firearm handguns stopping in 1934?
Never would have passed. It just couldn't have.
Who knows? But if any case, some people will say that the NRA was a buffoon that got in the way and it just happened to knock off. Other people will say that that's when the NRA turned from head in the clouds, worrying about sports all the time, to becoming a political entity and an advocate for Second Amendment rights. So anyway, I think that all these things are interesting topics that have to do with the 1934. And the 1934 happened today. It was because this is a significant day that I plan to have the cards end. Today. It happens to also be 30 days after John Wayne's birthday, which was a month ago, May 26th. So I figured that was a pretty cool coincidence. And since it's Old West cards, and this is old ass stupid law that needs to go away, it would be appropriate. And the Heller decision, although good, wasn't perfect. And it's another, I guess, interesting thing that happened today. And now we'll be able to add to today's interesting list of things that happened. The Zapruder case got shit canned. So I'm really looking forward to Every Second Matters. We'll be talking to Eric and Sean. Eric expressed great interest in being involved in the Every Second Matters this month. He wants to talk about the Nelson case and that CCW guy who got shot by the police, and probably this recent one today, as well as Share. That's an important one. And we know the people from Firearms Policy are interested. They seem very interested in coming back. So potentially it'll be a very interesting Every Second Matters, a very good one, since we have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about, and a time to, I guess, figure out how to lick our damn wounds and get the hell back on the horse, because none of this is over. It ain't even near over.
Nope.
Right, I need to drink some water. You know, I did that radio show with those guys. They sat there for an hour. Didn't drink a thing of water. I'd probably drink like a quart of water. I don't know how they do it.
Well, they're old cowboys. They're not. Besides which, when you get old, if you drink that much water, you'll have to pee 3 or 4 times. Just saying, eh?
Looks like we're getting some comments on whether or not, and Bob said same thing, whether or not it would have passed with the handguns included. Maybe we should talk about that in a future show. We're gonna say if it would have. So I'm going to jump over to my history page that I look at for days in history. I'm just curious to see if they have any gun stuff in here. Okay. It says the Lewis and Clark expedition reaches the mouth of the Kansas River after completing a westward trek of nearly 400 miles today in 1804. I think that's interesting. It catches my eye because remember Dead Horse, who used to be on gun channels all the time? I met him in whatever, Salt Lake City.
In Utah.
Yeah, so you guys went to the museum together. He has been on vacation. I've been watching on his Instagram. He's on vacation at the Lewis and Clark Museum someplace. You know what they have at the Lewis and Clark Museum?
The air rifle?
Yeah, and I think it's his air rifle. How freaking cool is it to be in the room with his air rifle, dude?
Oh, shit.
I didn't know that was a thing. I think he's over in Oregon for that. So I'm going to add that to the list of potential places I want to visit. Let's see, the 1900, today in 1900, the United States announced it will send troops to fight against the Boxer Rebellion in China. You know anything about that?
Yeah, a little bit. It was the Chinese, some of the clans, I think, were rebelling against because there was a lot of other governments that were kind of paying off their people or their leaders and meddling in their government, shall we say. The Boxers, which were kind of a criminal clan, I think, just blowing it up
myself. But I do know that one time, Tucson Guns, right? Bob had a Winchester that was from that situation. So somebody over there in China had bought crates of Winchesters for this Boxer Revolution or whatever it was, and the Boxer Rebellion. And whenever we were putting it on Gunbroker, I had looked it all up, and it was pretty interesting. So I saw that happen today. Like this one, in 1942, the Grumman F6F Hellcat fighter flies for the first time. Do you know that one? This F6.
Oh yeah, Grumman F6F. Yeah, it shot down more Japanese fighters than other airplane in the inventory.
Oh.
Even the one that came out in 42, right? Built in response to the Zero.
I'm not picturing it. So it says in 1951, the Soviet Union proposed a ceasefire in the Korean War. Let's see, that's about it. At least that seems interesting, maybe gun related. Looking if anybody interesting got born today. Elvis Presley's manager was born today.
Yeah. The guy who stole all his money?
I don't know.
Wasn't that the Colonel?
I don't know. No, it said somebody else. Or no, maybe it did. It's in Parker, I think. But anyway, I don't know the whole story of Elvis.
Oh, yeah. Elvis got ripped off.
All right. Well, I think at that point we might be back at the bottom of the show.
Yeah, I think we're about there.
We did events. We did a gun shop. We didn't do a gun movie. So I guess we're not doing a gun movie. The first person to shout out a gun movie is the gun movie today. Otherwise, we will again thank everyone for your participation in the Daily Show. We've been doing this for a while now, and we're back for another week. I got a little bit of inspiration talking to the old guys and seeing their show on Sunday or Saturday. We're going to get together like we do the host of this show and chat about how we're doing and what we're doing. So we'll see how everybody's going, and hopefully be back another month for of shows. And I'm hoping to see how far we can take this Kickstarter, and if I can get it back on the road, that might take, give the show a shot in the arm. That we always wanted to be on the road doing this thing as a co-pilot and pilot kind of thing, driving around and seeing new shops every day and doing interviews with gun shop owners and stuff like that. But if you want to participate in what we're doing, one way to do it is on Patreon. We have a page over there, and our supporters can join in every once in a while. We'll start the show early. We'll drop the link in over there, and people take us up on it and hang out and just ask questions or chat. And then let us know about news, so we have stuff to talk about on the show. We always appreciate that. We also do a show second Saturday of the month where we actually schedule the next month's topics, and our Patreons help us with that. We also post links and stuff as we can. And because we have a patch of the month over there as well. So if you do want to have something tangible for support of the show, that's one way to get some patches that are just not for sale anywhere else. Somebody has a zombie Bob patch that's all green. It is no more than one. So
I think there's only
all right. So again, thanks everybody for that. And that will take us to the end. So we'll be back tomorrow for episode 342. We'll be talking about how the states change from may issue to shall issue, maybe even if that's a possibility anymore after Peruta. And then we'll be talking about the state of Maine. I imagine I'll be telling you about how the Old West playing cards deck played out. And it'll be Tuesday, so that means we'll be overlapping or quoting the Andalusia Armory Show. I highly encourage you to check out the Andalusia Armory Show. We always appreciate live viewers so that you can participate in what we're doing. But if you want to experience a whole different type of live show, Andalusia Armory is a gun shop in Andalusia, Alabama. They shut down a little bit early on Tuesdays. And can you hear me okay when I lean back into the fan like that? I hope you can. It's hot in here. They shut down their shop a little bit early on Tuesdays, and they set up a table and BS about what's been going on. And it's kind of a treat if you don't have a cool gun shop where you could just feel comfortable. They feel comfortable when you're in there to just shoot the shit. This is a glimpse of what that's like, and it's a way to be that fly on the wall when the gun shop guys are just chatting with each other. Really feel bad that when we picked this time slot, they got smashed on top of it. So I hate to split viewers. So that's why I'm going to encourage anybody who likes our show to listen to theirs live and participate in their live chat. That'll give them some inspiration and some encouragement to keep doing it, and you'll enjoy it. You can always listen to us recorded, plus we're here every other day live. Otherwise, tomorrow is Tuesday, so in the morning, more than likely, Jimmy will be doing the early watch. I think he said he had his grandkids there today, so that was, he didn't do a formatted show, but tomorrow he'll be back to a formatted show. And we'll be back tomorrow. So I think with that, I can quit saying stuff. Bob can say the rest, and we will see you then.
Yep. All right. Well, everybody knows we like to end our show on a quote. This quote today is by John Longenecker. Longenecker? Don't know him. But before that, I want to remind everybody, please like, subscribe, if you're not subscribed already, but share for sure. Really helps things. So on that, let's hear the quote. Nothing puts the dignity in personal dignity or the freedom in personal freedom like the self in self-rule. And on that point, I'd like to say goodbye to everybody, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.
guys and gals of gunwebsites.com encourage you to take a CC every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching gunwebsites.com.